Fujimoto says the first thing Kim Jong-un ever said to him was, "Are you a damn Japanese bastard?" Before she married Kim Jong-il, she was already married to someone else. But Kim Jong-il saw her once, got obsessed, and basically forced her to divorce her husband so he could marry her. Kim Jong-un is a heavy smoker. He started puffing at the age of 12 or 13. Hi everyone, I'm Tony. We have already done 3 episodes on Kim Jong-il, the lonely foodie dictator. But today, let's talk about his unhinged successor, Kim Jong-un. And once again, our main source is Kim Jong-il's personal chef, Kenji Fujimoto. He cooked for Kim for 20 years, but he wasn't just the guy in the kitchen. He was in the sauna, racing cars, and even peeing next to him. If anyone really understands the inner work of North Korean royal family, it's this guy. I covered the whole love and hate bromance between Fujimoto and Kim Jong-il in the previous Kim Jong-il series. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely go check it out after watching this one. So Kenji Fujimoto wasn't just Kim Jong-il's personal chef. He was his ride or die for 2 whole decades. And during that time, he witnessed the rise of Kim Jong-un firsthand. So today, we're going to talk about one very simple question. How the hell did Kim Jong-un become king of North Korea? Fujimoto actually wrote a book called The Successor from the North after escaping back to Japan. At that time, Kim Jong-il was still alive. But in that book, Fujimoto boldly predicted that Kim Jong-un would be the one to take over the regime. Back then, Western media laughed him off. Everyone assumed North Korea, with its Confucian value and the rigid family hierarchy, would hand the throne to Kim Jong-un, the eldest son. But Fujimoto was certain. In the book, he made it crystal clear. Kim Jong-un was never going to sit on that throne. The crown could only go to Kim Jong-un. So what made him so sure? To answer that, we have to rewind to the first time Fujimoto laid his eyes on Kim Jong-un. The first time Fujimoto met Kim Jong-un was in 1990, when Kim Jong-un only 7 years old. It was at the Wonsan guest house. Now, guest house sounds pretty humble, but don't be fooled. This was basically a 5-star luxury resort reserved exclusively for Kim Jong-il's family. So why did Fujimoto see Kim Jong-un that day? Well, because Kim Jong-il got drunk, and he was feeling good about himself and decided to show off his 2 boys, Kim Jong-un and his older brother, Kim Jong-chol. So when they first entered, they were escorted by their mother, Ko Young-hee, and both boys were dressed in tiny military uniforms. But the vibe? It was totally different. Fujimoto recalled that Kim Jong-chol came off as gentle and polite. He even bowed and greeted him like a proper little gentleman. Fujimoto was also surprised by his look. He was in fact very good looking. If you see his picture in his 20s, you might mistake him for some K-pop idol. But Kim Jong-un, he was a whole different beast. From the moment he walked in, he radiated aggression. I mean, a lot of aggression. Fujimoto says the first thing Kim Jong-un ever said to him was, "Are you a damn Japanese bastard?" Yep, that was his opening line. And I guess it's just not a typical way to say hi. And he flat out refused to shake Fujimoto's hand. I mean, to be fair, North Korean kids are raised with the intense anti-Japanese propaganda. Their founding myth is all about Kim Il-sung resisting Japanese invader during World War II. But even with that context, Fujimoto was still taken aback. He said even at age 7, Kim Jong-il gave off some serious dictator energy. But Kenji Fujimoto was incredibly emotionally intelligent. Even though the young prince didn't seem to like him very much at first, Fujimoto still found a way to close distance between them. He immediately picked up on the one weakness those princes all shared, which is loneliness. Sure, their status was high, but they were truly isolated. Fujimoto saw that right away. And in that sense, Kim Jong-un was just like his father. Based on my extensive research as a back alley historian, Kim Jong-il only had one real friend in his entire life. And that was Kenji Fujimoto. Kim Jong-un was slightly better. He had 3 friends. First, our chef, Kenji Fujimoto. Second, it was Dennis Rodman. And third, it was a white classmate from his school days in Switzerland. The story between Kim Jong-il and that kid is also very interesting. We can talk more about him in a separate video. But hey, kids are kids. They still want to play. So the problem was Kim Jong-un didn't have any real friends, so who did he play with? Only the staff around him. But North Korean staff, the problem is that they didn't know a damn thing. Totally sheltered, had never seen the outside world. Whenever they were around the 2 little princes, they were terrified, scared to death of upsetting them. That's where Fujimoto came in. Don't forget, he's someone with emotional intelligence through the roof, and he saw the pain points right away. So how did he pull it off? Back in the 90s, Nintendo Entertainment System (NES) was all the rage. So Fujimoto brought his own from Japan and gifted it to the boys. And once they got their hands on it, they were hooked. Word is their favorite game was Super Mario, and both brothers actually ended up being huge fans of video games. Remember that rumor a while ago someone spotted an IP address on Steam coming from Pyongyang? I wouldn't be surprised if that was Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-un logging in for a late night session. So aside from video games, Fujimoto also noticed something else. The two princes actually had a natural gift for sports. You might not believe it looking at Kim Jong-il's body fat percentage now, which is probably north of 40%. But when they were kids, both Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-chol were really athletic. Their favorite sport? Basketball. And apparently these two brothers innovated a new way of playing basketball. I call it running around and throwing it up like headless chicken. Why? Because North Korea is an extremely closed and underdeveloped country. At the time, there wasn't a single good basketball can be found in the entire nation. And no one even knew the official rules. Literally, no one in the whole nation knew how to play properly. So when Fujimoto first time saw them playing, he was like, wow, those kids definitely athletic, but have no damn clue with what they're doing. So you might wonder if hardly anyone in the whole country even know how to play basketball, then how did they get so obsessed with it? Even though the country was closed off, the royal family could still tune into Western channel through satellite TV. And this was during the golden era of Michael Jordan. Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-chol were die-hard Chicago Bulls fans. They loved Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman too. In fact, they even invited Rodman to Pyongyang in 2012. You know what that really tells us? They probably tried to get Jordan, but only Rodman said yes. Back then, two princes was obsessed with watching Chicago Bulls games. But just watching was not enough. They want to play too. The problem, like I mentioned, no one in the royal court had any idea how basketball was actually supposed to be played. So Fujimoto stepped up. He went all the way to Tokyo and brought a full set of instructional books on how to play basketball with the complete official rules. He also brought back a bunch of basketball and started playing with the boys every single day. According to Kenji Fujimoto, both Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-chol were great athletes. Later on, Kim Jong-chol even got into bodybuilding. But here's the wildest part. This was happening around 1994, right in the middle of North Korea's arduous march. When the country was hit by mass famine, about 10% of the population starved to death. And meanwhile, inside the royal palace, Kim Jong-chol was working out, eating steaks, and drinking protein shakes like it was just another day at the gym. Fujimoto also organized tons of entertainment activities back then, which helped him win over both Queen and the little prince. So what did Ko Young-hee, the queen, love the most? Yes, just like all ladies, shopping in Tokyo. Outside of making sushi for Kim Jong-il, one of Fujimoto's most important jobs was planning Ko Young-hee's travel itinerary. Every day, he had to figure out where to take her in Tokyo, what was fun, how to schedule Disneyland visits, and all the little details. And every time they went to Tokyo, he would buy a mountain of gifts, usually expensive cosmetic and skincare products. That's why both Kim Jong-un and Ko Young-hee loved Fujimoto. So lessons of the day, if you want to win over your boss, you would better win over their wife and kids first. Alright, so let's talk about the big question. Why did the throne go to Kim Jong-un and not the eldest son Kim Jong-nam? According to Fujimoto, it all comes down to one thing. How much Kim Jong-il liked your mom? First, here is what you need to know. Kim Jong-nam and Kim Jong-un didn't have the same mother. Kim Jong-nam's mom was Song Hye-rim, a famous North Korean actress. Before she married Kim Jong-il, she was already married to someone else. But Kim Jong-il saw her once, got obsessed, and basically forced her to divorce her husband so he could marry her. And that poor guy, after the divorce, he reportedly drowned himself in a river. Though no one knows it was suicide or if someone helped him along. Anyway, Song Hye-rim gave birth to Kim Jong-nam. But Kim Jong-il, being the playboy he was, quickly got bored. Just a few years later, he sent her off to the Soviet Union under the excuse of treating mental health issues, and never let her come back. Why the sudden change of heart? Because Kim Jong-il had found someone new, Ko Young-hee, a dancer from his pleasure squad, and the eventual mother of Kim Jong-chol and Kim Jong-un. Ko Young-hee was considered extremely beautiful by North Korean standards. Personally, I think she looks a little like YouTube star Stephanie Su. If Stephanie Su had been born in North Korea, she might have had Kim Jong-il wrapped around her finger too. And honestly, it wasn't just about the mothers. Kim Jong-un himself was a kind of disaster. First of all, the dude got fat real fast. He gave you some food buffet energy when he was still pretty young. Look at Kim Jong-chol. He was hitting the gym every day, drinking protein shakes, and built himself like a K-pop idol. That's what Kim Jong-il liked. But it didn't stop here. He kept telling his father that North Korea should learn from China and embrace economic reforms. That was a big mistake. Kim Jong-il hated hearing anything about reform and opening up. Sure, it might help the people, he said, but it would be the death of the Kim dynasty. And finally, there was the Tokyo incident. In the early 2000s, Kim Jong-un tried to sneak into Japan using a fake Dominican passport to go to Disneyland. And then he got caught at the costume. When Japanese costume caught him, the whole world was laughing at Kim Jong-il's foolish air. It was a total embarrassment for him. Now here's the twist. All of Kim Jong-il's wives, sons, and daughters had a fake passport. Even Kim Jong-il himself reportedly used one when he was younger. And both Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-chol had visited Japan with fake IDs before. And the problem is that only Kim Jong-nam got caught. And that was the last straw. After that instance, Kim Jong-il exiled Kim Jong-nam from North Korea. He ended up living in Macau for years, completely removed from the inner circle. So if Kim Jong-il loved Ko Young-hee so much, wouldn't it make sense to pass the throne to one of her children? Well, she had three. The eldest, the Kim Jong-chol. The second, Kim Jong-un. And the youngest, Kim Yo-jong. But why did only Kim Jong-un get to succeed? First of all, this is East Asia. Male succession is still the default. Kim Jong-il loved his daughter, sure, but never seriously considered handing power to her. Now let's talk about the eldest son, Kim Jong-chol. According to Fujimoto, the consensus understanding within North Korea's inner circle is that Kim Jong-chol just wasn't leadership material. He was too soft, too gentle. People said he acted more like a woman. He had zero interest in politics or power. What did he love? Pop culture, working out, basketball, music. Honestly, he looked and dressed like a K-pop trainee. And he was also completely obsessed with one person, Eric Clapton, the legendary British singer. Sources say that while he was studying abroad in Switzerland, he followed Clapton on tour, attending every single concert. But that wasn't enough. Reportedly, he even offered Clapton €1 million to perform in Pyongyang. And Clapton totally rejected the offer, said, "I don't care who you are, I don't play for dictators." I mean, that was cold. Apparently, after being rejected, Kim Jong-chol broke down crying inside their luxury palace. And not just a few tears, but more of a full meltdown mode. His dad, the dictator himself, was embarrassed watching his grown son sobbing over a rock concert. Now, if this had happened to Kim Jong-il, he would have done what he did back in the day, just kidnap the artist. Seriously, in his younger years, Kim Jong-il had a thing for a South Korean actress named Cho Eun-hee. At first, he tried to invite her. She refused. So he straight up kidnapped her, along with her husband, and forced them to make movies for him in North Korea for 8 years. So yeah, compared to his father, Kim Jong-chol just didn't have that dictator energy. What's more pathetic is that even after all that rejection, he still adored Clapton. Anytime Clapton had a concert, Germany, Singapore, wherever, Kim Jong-chol would fly there to watch in person, often getting caught on camera by paparazzis. This kind of behavior sealed his fate. He was never going to be the next supreme leader. By contrast, Kim Jong-un was exactly the type of son Kim Jong-il liked. Kim Jong-il often said, "This boy is just like me." According to Kenji Fujimoto, Kim Jong-un showed leadership from a very young age. As a child, he discovered that throwing temper tantrum was an extremely effective management tool. Now, normally, if someone loses their temper all the time, you would think they just lack emotional control. But in Kim Jong-un's case, it was deliberate and it was a strategy. First, it made people realize he was scary, not someone you can easy to mess with. Second, it made them think he was dead serious and desperate to win. Fujimoto recalled that during palace basketball games, whenever Kim Jong-un's team fell behind, Kim Jong-un would explode in rage, sometimes even threatening his teammates, saying things like, "If you don't play better, I will have you all executed." And honestly, you can still see that same habit today. Ever since taking power, Kim Jong-un has constantly emphasized the missiles and nukes. Even President Trump mocked him as a little rocket man. But the truth is, this is all part of his playbook. From childhood, he learned that threats are a powerful weapon. That kind of unhinged strategy was exactly what Kim Jong-un liked. Because Kim Jong-un himself believed in the same thing. As a dictator, he prompted what's often called a porcupine strategy. North Korea is a tiny country, but whether facing Russia, China, or the US, it must always show it's ready to fight to the death, to use nuclear weapons if necessary. So in many ways, Kim Jong-un has always been his father's mirror. The policies he pushes today are really just continuation of Kim Jong-il's original playbook. So as we mentioned before, Fujimoto spent 2 decades serving the Kim family. At one point, he was nearly killed by Kim Jong-il, accused of secretly providing intelligence to Japanese agencies. But thanks to years of personal friendship, Kim Jong-il only placed him under house arrest for 2 years. After being released, Fujimoto eventually found a chance to escape from Pyongyang. I covered this in details in the Kim Jong-il series. I have put the link in the description section. If you haven't seen them, please check it out after watching this one. But here is the twist. After Kim Jong-un came to power, Fujimoto actually went back to North Korea. So the question is, why would he dare to return? The answer goes back to a conversation they once had by the seaside. One day, while staying at the Kim Jong-il's coastal palace, the two of them sat on the beach, smoking together. Oh, side note, Kim Jong-un is a heavy smoker. He started puffing at the age of 12 or 13. His father's favorite brand was the British Royal Rothmans, while Kim Jong-un's favorite was Yves Saint Laurent. Every trip Fujimoto made to Japan, he had to bring back cartons of Yves Saint Laurent cigarettes. That day, as they smoked by the sea, Kim Jong-un took a long drag and sighed. Look at us. We live in this golden palace, and just 5 miles away are people in slums, starving, struggling to survive. We ride motorcycles, we play video games, we eat the best food, but they live in hell while we live in paradise. How can I face my people like this? Can I ever give them a better life? That rare glimpse of emotion deeply moved Fujimoto. He became convinced that Kim Jong-un was nothing like his brutal father, that maybe one day this young man could be leader of compassion, someone who would lead North Korea into a brighter future. It was with this belief that after Kim Jong-un took power, Fujimoto returned to Pyongyang. But he had underestimated Kim Jong-un. The man he thought would be merciful turned out to be nothing like that. This journey marked the beginning of Fujimoto's greatest suffering. Just a friendly reminder, after Fujimoto escaped back to Japan in 2001, he didn't exactly keep a low profile. In fact, he went all in, publishing 6 books exposing Kim Jong-il's private life. He also became a regular on Japanese variety shows, basically turning into one of the most popular TV personalities of that era. Whatever secrets he had about the Kim family, whether they could be said or shouldn't be said, he spilled them all. And yet, despite all this, in 2012, 11 years after his escape, at the very start of Kim Jong-un's rule, Fujimoto returned to North Korea once again. And this time, he went back at Kim Jong-un's personal invitation. And it looked like he was given the highest possible reception. Kim Jong-un himself greeted him, and when the two finally met, they embraced and even cried. Fujimoto told Kim that he was deeply grateful for being forgiven for his past betrayal. He said he still carried a strong affection for North Korea in his heart. But don't let that warm reunion fool you. There is something here that's deeply unsettling. You see, just one day before Fujimoto left North Korea, his eldest son, who was still living there, suddenly died. The official cause given was a heart attack. Now the timing is almost too perfect. During the 11 years Fujimoto was away, nothing ever happened to his wife or children who remained in North Korea. Yes, they suffered, spending 7 years in the labor camp as punishment for being relatives of a defector. They lived in brutal conditions, barely enough food, forced to work hard labor every day, and yet, despite all that, nothing fatal ever happened. But then, the very day before Fujimoto returned to Japan, his son suddenly dies. It's hard not to see something suspicious here. Some say Kim Jong-un deliberately arranged the killing as a warning to Fujimoto. Go back to Japan and tell the world what you want. But never forget, we can take away the people you love the most at any time we choose. By staging an accidental tragedy, they created immense psychological pressure. The cause of death couldn't be investigated, but for Fujimoto, the message was loud and clear. And yet, after returning to Japan, Fujimoto insisted again and again his son's death was nothing more than a tragedy coincidence. No one really knows why. Maybe he ran out of money, but in 2017, Fujimoto went back to North Korea yet again. This time, Kim Jong-un set him up with a fancy sushi restaurant inside a high-end Paradise department store in Pyongyang, with Fujimoto himself as executive chef. The place mainly catered to North Korean elites and foreign visitors. It looks like Fujimoto was ready to settle down in North Korea for good. But then something strange happened. Since August 2019, Fujimoto has completely disappeared from the outside world. First, foreign tourists were suddenly no longer allowed to visit the sushi restaurant. Then, multiple foreign media reported that he had actually been arrested as early as June 2019. The accusation? Passing information he obtained in Pyongyang to the Japanese intelligence. He was allegedly charged with espionage and thrown into North Korean prison camp. As of today, his fate is unknown. And if that story is true, then honestly, he was being way too naive. Remember back when Kim Jong-un was still alive, Fujimoto had already been caught twice selling information to Japan. He barely escaped with his life. If you are gonna return, at least just stick with making sushi quietly. But no, he had to start selling secrets again. Now he's in his 70s, and if he really is digging coal in North Korea's labor camp, he probably won't last many more years. Whatever the case, all we can do is wish the old man good luck. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. With that, I will see you in the next one.